Yo, I'm Alpha Omega. I'm a VTuber that mostly specializes in, or maybe not specializes, but focuses on speedrunning content. And this is going to be my submission for Splatoon 2 Octo Expansion, 90% no death abuse for AGDQ 2024. Just a little bit of history about the game. Octo Expansion was released in summer of 2018 as the paid DLC for Splatoon 2. I can't speak today apparently. And personally, it's one of my favorite speedruns in the entire series. I feel like it is one of the more technically challenging without being too mechanically intensive. In other words, I feel like it gives the best variety of different techniques and skills without being too trick heavy, like I know some other runs are. And speaking of some of those other runs, I've also dabbled in Splatoon 3 and Splatoon 1. Splatoon 3 more so than the first game. I'm still trying to kind of learn Splatoon 1 for the most part. But as I said, I very much prefer Octo Expansion to any of those games because I feel like it is one of the most rewarding to run because it is a lot of very strict gameplay for, almost an hour straight, and I absolutely love it for that. Um, so, yeah, let's see. If I remember correctly, it has been almost 5 years since Octo Expansion has been in a mainstream or mainline GDQ. I do believe it has been on hotfix a couple times since then, but I'm hoping to get it back in. I know that there's a couple other runners submitting other Splatoon games, so we'll see if it gets in. But I'm holding out hope. But here we are going to be getting into the first main cutscene of the game, and this is also where we meet the telephone. The telephone is this interesting character that we don't really know much about, other than we're trying to get these 4 things back to him, and that's how we're going to reach the Promised Land. He never specifies what the Promised Land is, but we are led to believe that it is the surface. Within Splatoon lore, we have Octolings and Octarians as a whole have been left underground for almost 100 years after the Great Turf War, as it was called in the English localization of Splatoon 1. And here we are playing as an Octoling, seemingly trying to escape to the surface. Which is why the telephone leads us to believe that the Promised Land is just that. I'm not going to spoil things, but that may or may not be the case. I think that's actually a spoiler. Oh well. But the train we see here pulling in here is the Deep Sea Metro, which is a lovely pun, I must say. And it is what in game is taking us around to all the different levels throughout the Deep Sea Metro as a whole. And here we see the main conductor of the Deep Sea Metro, or one of many of them, Sea Cucumber. Yeah, he's a sea, or see, they're a Sea Cucumber. And basically Sea Cucumber, or as I mentioned, any of them, because it turns out there's a lot of Sea Cucumbers that look very similar. They are going to be the ones running the various tests, which are levels that we play throughout the run. It is also worth mentioning that the subcategory for this run, no death abuse, is because there is a mechanic within the game that you are allowed to skip levels by paying the entry fee after a certain number of deaths, and basically that ends up making the run about, I want to say, 10 to 12 minutes shorter, but it is a lot less skillful. You remove a lot of the harder levels throughout the run, and basically you skip the entire ending sequence. And that ending sequence provides a lot of fun, compact play at once. So any percent no death abuse is the more prestigious category within this game. Here we see our first sanitized Octoling, or Octarian rather. These are our main enemy throughout the game that we know of. And they're basically, if you just take the baddies from the regular story mode, hero mode, and just give them a blue-green makeover, boom, there you go. There's your main enemy. This first level is pretty repetitive. We're able to use bombs to kill a couple of the enemies earlier. Here's our first manipulation of the run. By aiming our crosshair in a specific manner, we're normally able to make that Octoling with the inkjet able to move in a certain direction. I actually slightly messed it up there. My cursor was too far to the left, so I ended up pushing the Octoling, or the Octarian, to the right. So that was a little bit of time loss, but outside of that, first level, pretty much an auto-scroller without actually being an auto-scroller. The most annoying enemy in that level is actually the Inkbrella on the second checkpoint, because it has like one of two paths it can go. The one I got is the one that we want, because it actually brings them closer to us and we get to just kill them immediately. Wait, not kill, splat, correction. But outside of that, you know, if they go the wrong way, it's a bit annoying and lose upwards of about 5 seconds. Here we also happen to meet Pearl and Marina, the idol duo known as Off the Hook throughout the game. And they're going to be the ones helping us out throughout the run. As I mentioned earlier with Death Abuse, Marina is actually the one who, in the game, hacks into the system and makes Kamabo Core, the company that runs the Deep Sea Metro, think that we've passed the test. This level here is AO6, and it's our first cycle-based level of the run. Basically, we're trying to hit a very specific cycle that allows us to move about, I want to say 3 seconds faster. Actually, no. It's actually about 12, I think. About 12 seconds faster than usual. And it revolves around this ink brush thingy here. I do get hit by it, but thankfully this is Splatoon 2 and introduced the armor mechanic to the single player. And basically, if your armor gets broken, that means you would have died in normal multiplayer, but instead you're reduced down to, I think, about 1/4 health, and your movement is much slower. It's basically a way to say, hey, get to cover, you're being stupid. These ink furlers here, I think that's what they're called. No, these aren't ink furlers. Normally, I have a pattern memorized for it. I just forgot. Thankfully, again, since I have the armor break capability, I just take that instead and finish off the level with not a gold, but, you know, still pretty decent. So, and as I had mentioned earlier, Octo Expansion is not very much a trick-heavy run, but we do still have a few skips here or there that we do. And the first one of those we're going to see is here in AO7 Maverick Station. This skip is simply known as Maverick Skip, because that's the level it's in. We are when Octo Expansion came out, we were still very much in the not knowing how to name skips. We've gotten a bit better since then. But basically, the special weapon that we're allowed to use here, the inkjet, always keeps you a certain height above the floor. And we use that along with the initial boost you get from going in and out of squid mode to skip about a third of the level. You can see it all to our right there. Yes, it takes a death to get to the checkpoint. We have never found a way to stay alive while doing Maverick Skip, and technically, yes, we're abusing the death plane in order to get to an early checkpoint. The thing is, when we say death abuse, we just mean using the method to skip levels. That is completely outlawed within the game's rules. Here we're going to see the introduction of chat rooms, or chat logs rather. We don't care about those. Those are just for lore. We're speedrunners. We don't care about lore. Basically, that's mostly where you're finding all of your information about the world of Octo Expansion, and we don't care. We just want to get to the end of the game. Here we see CO3A08, our first 8-ball level of the run. I don't think anyone in the speedrunning community likes this level. It's mostly because of the ending. This has one of the, if not the worst ending to a level in the entire run, maybe the entire series. And you'll see why. It's just not good. So basically, the main gimmick behind 8 balls levels is that you cannot let the 8 ball fall off the ledge. If you let the 8 ball fall, you die, and have to go back to the next checkpoint. You can see here, outside the very beginning of the level, I've had a pretty smooth run, and here we go into the final checkpoint, which is everyone's least favorite. Basically, you have these giant walls of bumpers that if the ball hits, it will move the ball back and forth across the stage very quickly, and thankfully I luck out and it doesn't hit the back wall. If it hits the back wall, if it hits the back wall and bounces back, it gets a lot of backwards momentum very quickly, and you basically have to chase it. If it wasn't for the extremely rough start to that level, that may have been a gold split for me in this run, but it wasn't, so don't get to claim it as a gold. And here we meet our next main character, Isopadre. He's another one that we don't really care about. He is a citizen of the Deep Sea Metro that used to be a former test subject of Kamabo Core. Obviously, he's still good. But if you've noticed throughout the ending cutscene of each level, we've held up a little doodle. But those are called memcakes. You get a memcake from each level, and they basically store your memories within the lore of the game. I'll get back to this. This is level CO2. This is Shrinky Ink Station, the first, I think only limited ink level in the run. I still play this very cautiously. Or I would say I play it medium between cautious and risky. Here you can see I'm already starting to run low on ink. That is completely normal. And as a result, I'm playing this ending very safe. Thankfully past the level without dying, because that would be bad. If you do run out of ink, you still have a slight window to move forward before you get killed by Sea Cucumber, but thankfully that doesn't happen here. As I was mentioning about Isopadre, basically if you collect all the memcakes on a certain line, you can take them to him and get a reward for multiplayer, normally just a piece of gear. Here we have our next cycle-based level, DO6. This is one of the most, I would almost say technically demanding levels of the run, because it is all cycle-based, and you need to hit these cycles, otherwise you are in for a rough time. You can even see there, I missed one down below, and that's going to impact how I play the ending here. You notice I missed that shot there. Thankfully get it back around. There are faster routes for it. I've seen insanely good times. This was not one of them. As you can see, lost time on that split overall. But again, 0.3 seconds. Ooh, big deal. Next up is one of the close to auto-scrollers of the run, DO7 Target Buster Station. And this is it's a level. It's a level, basically. Your goal is to break all, well, as it says on the screen, bust all the targets before time runs out. I actually selected the wrong weapon by accident here. In theory, you should be selecting the ink brush because it has a faster movement speed than the Octo brush, which is what I'm currently using. The trade-off is that the Octo brush has higher damage overall than the ink brush. And that mostly comes into play here on the last checkpoint. But overall, I think the ink brush is about, I want to say about a second faster. But it's to the point that if you select the Octo brush by accident, it is still faster to just play the level out rather than going back in and selecting the ink brush. So after that, we have what some people consider the hardest level in Octo Expansion outside of the secret final boss, Girl Power Station. This is one of the easiest in the speedrun, mostly because we figured out, well, I say we, like, I had something to do with it. The patterns that these Octolings follow is very predictable. And yeah, it's just it's all just about predicting. Or actually, maybe not as much predicting, but like just knowing where they're gonna go. Um, this first set of Octolings that we see perched up here, um, they normally have times that they will spawn in, but if you hit them with a shot from your weapon, they will jump. If you have a single shot weapon, or a one-shot weapon, you can just kill them straight away. That's very helpful if you have the blaster weapon, because that kills in a single shot. But as you can see here, I'm using the splatter shot because it is the weapon I'm by far most familiar with. Here, we're waiting until 45 seconds shows on the clock, and that's when the next round is going to spawn in, as you can see here. And then it's basically just a case of running around the arena, killing all of them as quick as they can. Some of them will try to damage the orb. If the orb runs out of health, we lose. Here, I get a very lucky kill on that Brella, and I can set up for the final round of enemies, which spawns at 22 seconds. So kill that first one, quickly run over and kill the second. And this is where we see Box Friend, or Wall Friend, correction, Wall Friend. This is just the random Octobrush that's still left over. They can't kill the orb. They don't know how. If we stand on top of this box, I say hi to them. They splash down me, which, you know, we have armor. We don't die. And that's Girl Power Station. It's an auto-scroller outside the very beginning, because once you hit the launch pad at the start, as long as you don't die, it is always going to be a consistent, like, 1 minute, like, 40 seconds until you split. It's something like that. So this next level is going to be JO2 Matchmaster Station. This is one of the most visually impressive levels, I would say, throughout the entire run. Basically, we are trying to break all the boxes on the statue on the right to match this one on the left. The catch is, if we break a box that is not correct, i.e. that we need to keep the statue, we die. And we're using the hardest weapon for it, the blaster. And basically, the reason why this weapon is the hardest is because of the mechanic that we call sparking. Sparking is when a blaster shot reaches the end of its set duration and will explode or spark. Sparking will deal a lot of damage in a very wide radius. That was a very weird box. That's the one instance of sparking we actually use in the run, or to break boxes. We use it to A, break boxes, and B, catch one of these grapple hooks. But to prevent sparking, we stand pretty close to boxes, and what that allows us to do is break a certain number of boxes in a set radius without having to really worry about breaking any other boxes. You can definitely see, though, that we are very close to breaking some. And if I remember correctly, the main rule of thumb is any box that is adjacent to one you hit gets, basically, if we just want to say 1 point of damage done to it. The boxes that we want to break, which are the ones that are slightly darker in tone, or slightly darker in color, those require 1 hit to kill, and the boxes that we don't want to break take 2 hits. So it is a slight built-in mechanic from the devs that say, hey, it's actually not that bad. So now we're going to be going into JO1 HO7 station, Cool Your Jets. And this is the first and only boss fight level that we see in the run. There are 4 of these spread throughout the Deep Sea Metro, and each one of them is respective of the World 1 through 4 bosses in the Hero Mode. So this is a remastering, I guess, of the World 4 boss, the Octo Shower. But rather than your standard weapon, I believe you're given a charger in Hero Mode. We're given an Inkjet. So rather than saying, oh yeah, Inkjet, or rather than giving us the charger, we get an inkjet, which does make the fight a little bit trickier. But thankfully, we have patterns to do all this. The hardest phase is actually the first, because it's the most unpredictable. After we get the first two shots there to knock down Octo Shower, he can go any way of four directions, and then he can do that again, which makes that basically what 16 possible directions, I think. Here we have our setup for phases 2 and 3. I actually missed the one. I've actually missed it here for 2. Thankfully, I get the backup pretty easy. Each miss loses about 5 seconds. So it's not the end of the world if you miss one, but it's such a clean looking strategy that you really don't want to miss it. Also, you know, you save 5 seconds if over missing it, if you actually hit it. Here we have the octocopters that can teleport, but thankfully, with our cursor movement, we're able to, there we go, yeah, that's an example of a clean one. Thankfully, I hit it there, but because our cursor is not over them when we're shooting, they don't teleport away in time, and we're able to just kill them pretty easily. So now we just have a short cutscene as the boss explodes and a rubber ducky hits the screen, and then we have our test passed screen, which signals the end of the level. And here we are going to be moving into our first Fang. As I mentioned at the start of the run, about what, 18 minutes ago, we're trying to collect 4 things for the telephone to have us reach the promised land. And this is the first one of those. Basically, you'll notice, it is 4 things that make up another thing. And these thing levels are very, very straightforward. I remember when I was first playing this, back in 2018, I thought these were going to be the boss fights, because it just seemed really odd that the things that we're trying to collect are just sitting right there. And there's a big climactic build-up with the music, and then, no, you just grab it. As you can see, I gold split there. I think at the time I recorded this run, that actually broke the community goal. So that was the fastest time someone to ever complete that split. It has since been broken, because it was not good. But here we're going to be getting into JO4 Footloose Station. You will notice that there was a lot of 80s references throughout the English localization of this campaign. That is no coincidence. Basically, this entire thing is 80s themed. So here we're going to be spawning in 2 of the other enemies early. I get a pretty good box kill there. Basically, if the enemies fall down, they die faster. Or not, they don't die faster, they just die instantly. So you can see I do that there. I wait for this last one. Actually, no, yeah, that's right. You shoot that last one, you shoot below, because that delays the spawn of those last 2 enemies just long enough for us to recover the amount of ink we need to kill those last 2 enemies. Because otherwise we'd run out of ink, and it becomes a whole painful thing with ink missiles or 10 missiles, and it's just annoying, to put it simply. And up here, what is this supposed to move? Stick and move. Dang it, I missed it up. This is Stick and Move Station JO5. This has one of our other main skips in the run. It is another in level. We don't really have any. Well, no, because it's all linear. We don't have any overworld skips. All of them are in level. But this one, done optimally, saves 11 seconds over missing it. And technically, if you do miss it, it is faster to take a death and try it again, rather than going around. You'll see what I mean in a moment. But it's really not that practical to try and take the death, because if you miss it again, well... Do I hit it here? I do hit it there. So basically, we skip this entire first layer of shooting these targets to move these ink furlers around. Ideally, you only want to hit them twice per rotation, because otherwise you risk running into them. And dualies, the weapons we're using there, have a mechanic where you can just, it's called dodge rolling. If you're shooting and hit the B button, you roll in whatever direction you're holding on the movement stick. And what we use it there for is if we hold up on the control stick and mash dodge rolls, we move a little bit faster than we would otherwise. It's not much, but it's enough. And here we're going to be reaching the second thing. Yes, it's really only 2 levels. That's the great thing about this route. It's pretty dang simple. And this is going to be closing out the right side of the run. Basically, most runners put their sub-splits as AO5, which is our first level, and essentially end of the tutorial, the right side of Metro and the left side of Metro. Most runners, there's 1 or 2 exceptions, run right side first, as it has 2 of the hardest levels in the run back to back, or pretty close together. Matchmaster Station, the boss fight, and also the first shoot, I kind of not think of the word. One of the target levels that's very cycle based. And then left side has 1 extremely hard level right at the end, but that's about it in terms of difficult levels. But you're building up to that last level, and it is tricky. This is AO4 station, and this is our first sighting of the baller. As I mentioned earlier, in a couple levels we are given special weapons used strictly throughout the used only within that level. You can't use your main weapon, and this is the other one outside of Inkjet. It is a big hamster ball that we roll around in. You can see a lot of very I don't want to say very technical movement. It's slightly technical in a hope to get what is known as left side, and I get it there. Basically just a slightly faster version of the movement, because if you can stay on the left side, you don't have to jump over to the right side, and that saves a little bit of time. You see it there. Coming up next is BO1 AO3 station, and this is the second of 2 8-ball stations. There is another route that knocks out the 2 8-ball stations very early. You would start by going AO4, BO1, and then continuing onto right side. But to me, I actually kind of enjoy this level. I've had a few incidents on it here and there, but not too bad. Not too bad respectively. This is another one of the... This is another one of the levels in the run that focuses on global cycles. Basically, we have a seesaw at the very end that we're trying to get this 8-ball over, and each cycle is around 8 seconds long. There is something known as zero cycle. I've personally never gotten it. That would be around a 121 split time. As you can see, my best ever is 130. Here you see me actually just pausing for a moment to just to line myself up, because you're hitting an 8-ball on a very thin line. If you mess it up, you mess it up. You're just screwed. The first one you actually see me pause on there is actually zero cycle. So I took first cycle there, which is still pretty good for me. But outside of that, I guess I should explain 8-ball movement. 8-ball movement, by shooting it, it doesn't take where you're shooting it on the ball. It takes the center line from the middle of the 8-ball to where your player character is, and the ball moves along that line. It's really weird, and is one of the reasons why some people really aren't a fan of 8-balls. AO2 station, Far Out station. This is our only instance of a ranked mode in Octo expansion, or at least within this run. There's two each of Rainmaker levels and tower control levels. Thankfully, the one in this route is Rainmaker, because we can complete this one really fast. Tower control is just annoying. It takes so long. But after popping the Rainmaker, we only need 4 shots to finish off this level. So you can see the first 2 there. The third one here. I fire a little bit more to the left than usual to kill that Octoling. I really don't like it there. And then the fourth one, you just gotta be sure. Oh, that's right. I messed it up slightly. Get my armor broken. I didn't charge my last shot fully. Or my penultimate shot in that case. But thankfully, able to bring it back there. Despite having the armor break, you're able to get to the end of the level. I have had instances where I don't fully charge that last shot and it costs me my run. Because if you die, you get sent all the way back to the start, and you have to fight your way back through. As you can see there, we finished off the A-line set of memcakes, and Isopadre was like, hey, that's kind of neat, come see me for a reward. We're not going to go see him. So next up is GO6801 Station. This is one of my personal least favorite levels in the run, because it always feels so inconsistent to me. It's another one of these dualies on rails levels, and it's very technical. We're gonna see 2 like minor skips here. The first one here is up onto this box, saves about 1 second, and then this one here is a dive over those, saves about 2. There are faster methods to doing this section, but I don't like doing those because I've only had bad accidents on that. This is the sniper section. I hate this section. It is faster to, yeah, as you can see there, my armor gets broken almost immediately as soon as I try to get fancy with it. My armor gets broken again there for some reason, and I don't understand why. I think it was another sniper shot, but it's never happened to me before. Thankfully, it doesn't cost me anything, and I get through that level without a death, which is very reassuring for me because I was really worried about that armor break costing me anything. Next up is GO5 Station, and this is one of the, I always say this, this is another one of the more visually impressive levels. Basically, this is bust 20 balloons, or no, bust 20 targets without popping any fail balloons. We have 1 life. If we die, then we get another cutscene if this isn't our first out of lives of the run. And basically, if you pop a fail balloon, you're dead. Doesn't matter. And a lot of runners use here what's called the what I call the 12 box open. We have 12 boxes in a row that we can hit pretty consistently. So there's the 12. I use a bomb here to try and blow up some of the extra targets, and I get lucky with getting an extra box more than usual. And you can see it in my reaction there. That was completely unexpected, and I get an early end to the level where I normally wouldn't, and results in a gold split. So it's at this point I'm realizing, oh, I'm on pretty decent pace. I need, don't screw this up. And this is going to be GO4 B10 Station, and this is our introduction to furlers. This is the only level that they appear in. I actually select the wrong weapon there, which is a pretty bad habit of mine. We use chargers because they are because they give us the longest shot length, which is very important to come later on. For the most part, though, I'm using burst bombs because they are very quick. I can stay in my ink longer. There is a technique on this checkpoint called a furler boost. Basically, when that furler is unfurling, we are able to get onto the front of it, and it will push us forward. It's a really fun looking tech. I don't like using it because I'm very inconsistent with it. Outside of that, this is our first instance, I believe, of a nollie throughout the run. And basically it is if you're holding out a sub weapon and then immediately jump off of a grind rail, you will gain more momentum perpendicular to the rail than you normally would. It also works if you are just firing your main weapon, but a sub weapon is easier to just hold and focus on. So you see there, almost died there, but thankfully had enough sideways momentum to get that skip and finish off that level. So now we're going to be going on to the third thing, and this one should be able to tell you what the four things will eventually make up. It's a bit obvious at this point. Yeah, we're making a blender. Spoilers, we're making a blender. Yeah, not isopostrate. The telephone really doesn't like us, seemingly, because the four things we're getting are a blender. I don't know how we haven't realized it's a blender at this point after the third thing, but, you know. It is what it is. So after this interaction with the telephone, saying, hey, congrats, you found the third thing, get one more and you're good to go. We get a small cutscene with Captain Cuttlefish, where we actually get to design Agent 3 from the first game. Basically, we choose all the default options. The biggest thing that we don't want to do is accidentally select the no options, because if we select those options, Cuttlefish has to go back and redraw, especially if you mess it up on the last one. So I normally take a little bit extra time there just to make sure I get it correct, because otherwise you're losing like 15-20 seconds. This is IO5 station, another grind rail level, and this is one of the ones that can be very stressful towards if you're on good pace, because basically this level has no checkpoints. So if you die right at the very end, you are losing a minute, which is another thing that I like about Octo expansion. It is very, I guess the best way to put it is very brutal in terms of time loss. You know, if you make mistakes, you're losing a significant amount of time. So it's very important that you're, you know, playing as good as you can. There, I made a slight slip up. Normally you want to pop those two boxes faster so you get a better jump. And here is one of the more stressful moments of the run. Basically, if any of those hit us, we fall off and we have to go back to the very beginning. These fences are also very annoying. You have to squid mode through them. I actually released a little bit earlier than I would have there, and that could have cost me something if had I been pushed to the other side of the fence. Thankfully, make it through, no deaths. A little bit slower than Sob, most would be some of the best because, or than my gold split, because as I mentioned, a couple slip ups here and there. And if you heard me mention at the start of left side, there's one level that is extremely stressful, and it's right at the end. This is it. This is IO4 Can't Touch This Station. Is it Can't Touch This Station? It is. So, the nickname for this level within the community is Damageless. And that explains what the gimmick on this level is pretty easily. You cannot take any damage. If you take damage, you're sent back to the last checkpoint. That means can't get shot by an enemy, can't touch enemy ink, nothing. If you take damage to an extent, if you take damage, you are going back to, for the most part, you're going back to your next checkpoint. You'll also see me holding out my sub-weapon there. That's a technique known as sub-strafing, allows us to get up to full speed faster than we normally would. You see me take out that first enemy there. That's mostly just personal preference. I've had bad experiences with that. There, I'm counting in my head to Mississippi while charging up a curling bomb. That gives me the right time to release it so I can get all of those octopods. Because if they get too close to you, they will explode. They explode with their own ink, and that damages you. And this is going to be the penultimate checkpoint right here. This is the Octo Sniper section. Top level runners will actually not kill that Octo Sniper there. Personally, I do, just because I don't need that extra added stress this late into the run. There, it's just a simple charge shot to get the ink wall. Here is, I think, my main slip up of the run. If I remember correctly, I do actually take a death here. Yeah, because I did a method. No, that's right. I tried to play it safe, and I get hit there, of all places, right at the max range of that Twinticle, which was really annoying for me because it was very much a case of, oh, I should have had that. And as you can see here, I'm playing this very safe now because I don't want to take another death, able to get it there. And while I do lose, I want to say around 20 seconds? Yeah, losing about 20 seconds. You know, I'm going into escape pretty much even. Yeah, when I say that deaths in this game are brutal, they're brutal, you know. That's one death there, and that's 20 seconds. That's my entire lead over the metro section of the run lost. Because of pretty bad RNG. So this is our final level of the metro section of the run, IO3. This is another auto-scroller. Basically, get into the launch pad as soon as you touch down, your clock starts. And we just have to defend the orb. This follows a basic pattern of right, left, right, left. And you just gotta survive for 1 minute. That's the level. So, yeah. That's, as I said, that's the metro part of the run. We're gonna basically be going into a very short cutscene here, so... I have been taking a break from speedrunning for the past few months, but, you know, figured, well, streaming as a whole, really, it's summer vacation. I had a job. It's hard. But I figured I'm gonna give this AGDQ thing another shot, especially given that it's pretty close to me this year. A lot easier than it has been in previous years to go, so hoping I get in. But outside of that, I figured Octo expansion would be a really fun run to show off once again. As I mentioned before, it's been about 5 years since it was last shown at a mainline GDQ, so I'd love to see it take place once again, because I really think this run is fun. It's a great showcase of the mechanics of Splatoon, and just overall how tricky it can be at times. So here we're going to be getting our fourth and final thing, and if I remember correctly, this is the main, what's the name of the main, jar of the blender? We'll go with that, the main jar of the blender. So once we collect this fourth and final thing, the telephone will give us the option to go to the promised land or stay longer and collect more stuff. Basically, if you wanted to stay, you can stay, and complete more levels, but interestingly enough, in both all missions and any percent, we don't stay. All missions is the second main category of Splatoon 2 Octo expansion, and basically you run any percent and then just go back into the deep sea metro and shoot, what's the name of it? You go back into the deep sea metro and finish off the remaining whatever levels. The main reason they actually do the escape sequence first, which you can see is labeled here, is because by going into the escape sequence, we actually get the rest of the chat logs immediately, and basically by doing that, we save time. I've personally never run all missions. I kind of want to in the future, but it's a long run. Here, you can see that the blender has turned on from the telephone, and yeah, he's trying to kill us. He's trying to kill us. Thankfully, who comes to the rescue but Agent 3. That very character we designed, what, 7 minutes ago? Something like that? Yeah, comes to the rescue all of a sudden, because, of course, we're not going to get blended up into a smoothie. That would be anticlimactic. So as I mentioned, we're going into a short cutscene here, and then we will be getting into the first phase of the escape sequence. The escape sequence is probably one of the most nerve-wracking parts of the run, outside of Damageless, or maybe even including Damageless. Mostly just because it is, especially the later phases, phases 5 and 6 are some of the most technical parts of the run, and some of the ones that you need the absolute most concentration for, because otherwise you can take a death and you will be losing time. So going into Escape 1, if you notice, we have no weapon, and as a result, we have to stealth our way through. However, we are speedrunners. There is one thing we don't like, and that's actually being stealthy. So you'll see we use a lot of fast strats here. There are some points that we do actually have to be a bit stealthy on, because otherwise things very quickly go to crap. So you can see here, I take an early jump. I think that technically gets the enemy's attention. Here, it's like, oh yeah, don't move too quickly, you'll be spotted. Well, we're still moving faster than we normally would, so... the big thing there is not wanting to get hot glued, as I would call it. Basically, if the enemies shoot under your feet, they'll slow you down. Here, again, it's just a case of wanting to stay hidden. We can just swim right by them, they don't notice us. Here's another part, not wanting of going fast and not caring about stealth. If you get bad ink there, it's not great. Here, you're technically supposed to, like, wait, jump between each one, but yeah, they can't shoot you in time. Here's another one, it's like, oh, you gotta wait until, like, until he can't see you, and then you gotta go. No, it doesn't matter. This is another one of our small little skips that saves about, I want to say 12 seconds or so. And the big thing is, that's a bit risky, because if you get caught out of ink, you're going to get spotted, and that checkpoint is very hard to complete once you've been spotted, because you get a bunch of enemies all on you at once because they spawn in. Here's another moment where we wait, because otherwise enemies spawn in. And then this here, I just wait very shortly to get a good pattern, and then just go. I do believe I take a slight time loss there to gold, maybe even, no, not to PB, but just to gold, because I am very much trying to play this run safely, because I know where my time save is, and it's in phase, or Escape 6. This is Escape 2, and this is the location of the most infamous trick in the entire category, Octo shot skip. It is legitimately a skip that is completely determined by RNG, and as a result, I don't do it. It is possible to get all the way down to, I believe, about a time of 1 hour 7 minutes 30 seconds without Octoshot skip. But if you're playing for world record, you gotta go for it. Here, I'm doing just a bunch of small little jumps to skip some required swimming. It doesn't look like a lot, but these jumps do actually save a decent amount of time, and they're just a little bit risky. There, I go into my humanoid form a little bit early, because that gets the attention of that Octarian quicker, and we actually have to keep him on screen, because otherwise he doesn't shoot anywhere close to us, which can be pretty bad, because we need him to break the boxes. But now we have Splat Bombs, which is going to be our sub-weapon throughout the remainder of Escape, and we use it to get all the way to our Octo shot. Here I'm using a few small corner-to-corner jumps. This one is possible to do just with a single jump. It's very risky though, and you still have to move it over anyways. Here we throw a bomb as we go into this short cutscene, because it gives the bomb time to explode and automatically raises the platform, which allows us to just waltz right across. And now we have our Octo shot, and we're just going to finish climbing this wall, getting up to the jump pad, and going into the final checkpoint of Escape 2. Thankfully, outside of the checkpoint I was just on, it's not all too risky. There I do slight delay shots, because if you fire quickly, it will actually capture the Octo Smasher, or whatever it's called, attention. And then here, it's just a simple little jump to save time, kill the Octo Sniper, and move on to Escape 3. And Escape 3 is home to one of the hardest global cycles in the game, the 159 cycle. I don't go for it, because it's stupidly risky. I mean, it's consistent, but, like, it's hard. And, you know, I don't need to be fancy, I'm just trying to play good. So yeah, 159 cycle is exactly what it sounds like. You're finishing the phase with a split time of 159, roughly. And that block you see falling into the water right now is the one that you jump on for that. If you notice, I'm not taking that route because it is way too risky for my liking. And if you do take a death on this phase, it screws up global cycles, because of course it does. This is Splatoon. This is Octo expansion we're talking about. I actually unintentionally delay there slightly. But basically, if you hit those furlers, it's not that big of a deal because you go right to a checkpoint. It's just slightly annoying. Then here we have the it's another checkpoint. What else do you want me to say? Basically, I'm pre-inking there to give myself an easier climb up. Again, pre-inking, killing both of these enemies because they have caused me problems in the past, and then just climbing what I pre-inked, and then getting to the final key vault of this phase here, sub-strafing to get my movement speed up just a touch, and then going into the final checkpoint. And this is the one that causes us the most issues if we have died. Basically, if you die, you are off cycle and have to wait for like 15 seconds. But when you're on cycle, you can just dash right through. And then on to Escape 4. Escape 4 is well, as the game says, the intestinal phase. Basically, these are all based off of the human body. But this is basically a laser dodging section. Unlike in the base game, correction, instead of the armor breaking that you would normally have in the Deep Sea Metro, here, if you hit one of these lasers, you die instantly. And it can be a bit of a jump scare if you're not expecting to hit it, because it is very sudden. And we basically have these lasers moving towards us. We hit this last one. It's like, oh, you can't get over it. Well, we can. And we actually intentionally take a bonk there, as we call it, because that moves us down to the ground faster. There is a strat here to go between some of these lasers. At this point in my run, I did not want to chance anything, so I was playing it safe. There is also a strat there to jump between two of the lasers. It is a 3 pixel wide gap. It is stupidly risky. It saves only about 5 seconds. It's really only used in like best theoretical time stuff and community goals. It's, you know, it is unnecessarily risky when you're going for a PB, because unless it's your absolute last option to get back ahead, you're not going for it. This is Escape 5, one of my personal favorite phases of the escape sequence, because it is so much movement and it is beautiful. So much like you saw in a couple of levels on the right side of Metro, we are using an inkjet, and we have to collect 8 data points. Each of those gives us a checkpoint. But there's some really cool tricks on them. That one there, for example, we use the initial jump from leaving the rail and going into inkjet mode to grab that one early, or to grab that data point early, which saves us time and gets us closer to global cycle. Here, my armor gets broken there by the sniper, but in this game, checkpoints actually restore your armor immediately, so we're able to use that to we're actually able to use that in order to get our armor back instantly. And I get an incredibly good escape 5 here, like the best I've ever gotten. That cycle that you see me hit was the first time I'd ever gotten it that early. It is possible to do it faster, but you're not getting much better than that. Because that's basically, I don't want to say it's frame perfect, but like it's trig perfect. And as you see, I hit the last one there. We get a short little cutscene here, and then we head back to move on to Escape 6. There is actually a soft lock here that can happen. Basically, you super jump immediately from the game. If you don't, for some reason, if you don't get the super jump, you don't have inkjet anymore, and you're soft locked. You cannot do anything. You have to die. It's weird. But as you can see, they're taking a gold split, which is awesome. And now we get into Escape 6 Peristalsis phase, if I can read correctly. I think that's what that was. And if you remember from Girl Power Station in the last level of left side, this is another protect the energy core, or protect the whatever. Here I'm using a series of predetermined counts to figure out how many times I need to shoot the orb. I'm also firing straight through enemies, because if you fire straight through, then you're more likely to not have a slowdown. And then also killing those two enemies there, because they have been really annoying in the past. And thankfully, when you hit a checkpoint, your the core fully recharges and gets full health. Otherwise, this would be nigh impossible. Here, I use the bomb to move the platform forward while killing that first enemy, and also moving the platform forward. And then there's that very quick sequence of moves, which is a bomb followed by killing an enemy, followed by trying to break one of these things. It's a whole thing. This is another global cycle. I am very patiently waiting for that 8-ball to, not that 8-ball, that bowling ball to drop down, because if you can go in front of it, but it's much riskier, but it is slightly faster. But as I said, I'm not trying to play risky here. I'm just trying to make it to the end. So once we deliver to the end, you can see my model glitch out slightly there. Lovely. We get a short cutscene as we power up the whatever we're in. We don't know for certain yet. And you'll notice I'm on pretty good pace. In my previous PV, 1:10:40, I had taken a death there, and as a result, well, I had lost 37 seconds there. I'd get a gold split, now pushing 45 seconds ahead. It was at this point that I realized, oh my god, I can 109. Spoiler alert, I don't. I get 110 even. But that's mostly down to this fight here. And this is the location of our final skip of the run, elevator skip. Basically, there's normally a cutscene here that you would see where the elevator stops, Perla Marita chatter a bit, and then you actually go into the cutscene proper. But by jumping off the platform and actually taking a death at a specific time, you save 8 seconds by skipping that cutscene, because the elevator has further to travel, etc., etc. So right here, I'm looking for that when that number 10 passes, or just the black line above it, jumping off, taking the death, which is actually the only way to get off the platform there, and then holding forward to instantly trigger the cutscene that I need. So here we see, oh no, Agent 3 has been corrupted by the sanitization goos, by the telephone, and oh no, they're evil now. Well, guess what? We're still gonna fight them, and we're gonna win, because we're speedrunners, and we know what we're doing. First phase here is a simple splashdown. We throw a bomb. I actually fire a little bit too early there. Basically, if you fire too early, they'll dodge roll out of the way, which is, again, not ideal. The second phase is Baller. I didn't realize which direction Agent 3 was trying to go. I tried to predict where they're going. They get an unfortunate roll away. Phase 3 is this, I forget what the name of this special is, but it's just a simple bomb and kill. Then here is the final phase, which is more splashdowns. Again, I'm trying to do my main strat here. They roll away. I miss. Almost take a death there, but that was just enough to push me over the time to 110 even. Because from the time we split to the end of the run is exactly 9 minutes, roughly 9 minutes 9 seconds. So you can get a rough estimate on what your finishing time is from there. But as I mentioned, it is now time for almost 6 minutes of unskippable cutscenes. And then 3 minutes of timed gameplay that you can't fast forward. So basically, from that point on, you know what your finishing time is, as long as you don't screw anything up. So that's a majority of Octo expansion. As I mentioned before, I really enjoy this run. I think it's one of the best in the series. It's, you know, it has so much varied, gameplay, has so much varied, you know, so many different skill sets that you need to be good at in order to excel in this run. Like, I think it's one of the best. I think it's one of the best runs to get into the Splatoon series for. You know, Splatoon 1 and 3, they are both very much, they are very trick-based. You know, you look at Splatoon 3 and literally we're playing 2 levels. No, not even. We're playing 1 level. 1 regular level in the entirety of Alterna and 3 boss levels. And then we're into the final sequence. Here we're playing so many different ones that you get a really good variety of skill sets. As I mentioned, you know, you have your special weapon movement, you have your aim in terms of like match master, you have, you know, on the fly thinking and damageless. It's so much fun. It's so unique in my eyes in terms of the Splatoon series as a whole. You know, Splatoon 2 Hero Mode feels like a lot of the same levels Splatoon 2 Hero Mode feels like a lot of the same levels just repeated and just with different weapons over and over again. You know, those 27 levels kind of drag by at times, at least from my opinion. Octo expansion, you know, you're dealing with I think almost every different type of weapon class in the game. You know, you're using shooters, obviously, you're using dualies, you're using chargers. It's, you know, it's a lot of, I think it's, as I mentioned, it's really unique and I love it. So here we see Commander Tartar, who is our main antagonist of Octo expansion. He's an AI that's gone rogue and is trying to wipe out all of Inkling kind because he doesn't like us and he wants to start anew. He's a fine villain. He's fine. I have opinions on him as a whole, but you know, there have been fan retranslations of him because admittedly the North American translation wasn't the best, and it's kind of a well-known fact. So now we see his big old plan to basically kill the entirety of Inkopolis. And you see those blenders there filled with that tealish ink. That's what would have happened to us if Agent 3 hadn't come in and saved us from being blended. Yeah, this game's a bit dark, to put it simply. Here we see Marina's amazing graphic arts decisions or choices with that statue. And then you also get her manga style drawing of your Octoling right here. Come on, where is it? Where is it? There it is. Just straight up in like a shoujo manga style art. So it's like, I absolutely love that. Because also in the, again, this is just me nerding out over the game. In the Japanese translation, or the Japanese text, right at the start there, it is revealed that Marina runs a manga club, which is just funny to me. But yeah, this is just 6 minutes of practically nothing. So from there, you know, it's just waiting around, waiting to see what happens, you know, hoping you don't screw up the very ending. Because you got 3 minutes to blow up, what is it? 30 bombs? 5, 5, 5, 5, 10? 5, 5, 5, 5. Yeah, you have 3 minutes to blow up 30 bombs. And that's way more than enough time. Like, I have thought about adding in a donation incentive for this game, and that is to do this final boss in a minute 45, with a minute 45 left on the clock rather than the full 3 minutes. It becomes much more of a challenge, and is really a good showcase of the more technical side of this final boss fight. So here we go into the final 3 minutes of the run, which starts now. So our first 5 bombs are going to be right along here. I actually forgot the first one, which is actually off to the left. I think I realized it about there. Yeah, like, oh, I'm missing one. But the first 4 sets of bombs only spawn in every 30 seconds, so I have more than enough time to go pop that and run back to my starting position. I say more than enough, like it actually just like wasn't like just barely enough. But as I mentioned, you know, this final boss in quotation marks there, isn't really all that much of a challenge when you're used to this game. You know, we're finishing those phases in like 15 seconds. Other times it's like 10. It's nothing really all too challenging. It's more of a very, I think the big thing with Splatoon 2 final bosses is that they are very climactic in terms of storytelling, but not as much in gameplay. I would very much say that the yeah, for example, there I finished all those bombs in 9 seconds. Like, I very much feel like these bosses, especially this one, it's like, yeah, it's just more of a glorified cutscene. You're still playing slightly, you still can screw it up. But outside of that, it's just, it's fine. So getting into the final sector of 5 bombs, which is just a simple up, down, or down, up, correction. And then I go over to my starting position for the final set of 10 bombs. Because we need to ride these grind rails around the head of the statue to pop the remaining 10 bombs. So there's the first one. And this is where there's the highest degree of being able to screw up in this part of statue, or the Nils statue fight. Mostly because of these grind rails. They can sometimes be a bit weird, especially the grapple hooks. That one there, that one bomb I did miss slightly. But again, we have 30 seconds left on the clock. I have 2 bombs to hit. As long as I shoot that correctly, we're good. So with that, we're into the final 20 or so seconds of the run. I know at this point I'm getting a personal best. I've been Alpha Omega. I hope to see you all in I want to say Pittsburgh for AGDQ 2024. I hope you enjoy Octo expansion and consider it for inclusion in AGDQ 2024. Thank you.